Hey folks, Randy Newberg here. Hope you're doing well today. We're plowing through application season, and today we're going to talk about Utah. Now, some of you know I'm kind of harsh on Utah at times just because I think value, which is the intersection of price and quality, is just maybe not where it could be for other states and others, especially the species Utah has could be had in other states at a better value. All that said, if Utah fits your budget and you are lucky, you're going to have a quality hunt in Utah. So when I walk through all this, I'm going to go through it really brief compared to prior years. You're going to see that Utah has a lot of opportunity if you are that lucky person. So like always, these videos are brought to you by our friends at Go Hunt. If you sign up for Insider using promo code RANDY, yeah, they're going to give you the $50 of credit in the gear shop, but this year we're adding in an annual subscription to Fresh Tracks Plus, and we're going to give you our 100-page completely redone elk hunting e-guide. So hopefully you'll think about that. Very first point we always give you is the deadline, right? The deadline this year is April 24th. I have it right here on my calendar. And it's 11 p.m. Mountain Time. Don't wait that long. Do it before then. The draw results this year, they promise will be out by May 15th. So let's hope so. Some big changes in Utah this year. There's a bill that's on the governor's desk. All indicators are he's going to sign it. That the Division of Wildlife Resources is going to be given authority to raise non-resident fees 100% for the license, for the application fee, for everything across the board. Ouch. So back to my point where I said I thought Utah wasn't that great a value under the current pricing. Double the pricing, the value proposition goes close to in half. Doesn't mean that Utah DWR will max out what their authority is going to be for price increase, but maybe they will. So here's what I did. I'm looking at this saying, all right, I got some elk points I'm trying to burn because I want a late archery hunt. I got some other things that I'm trying to burn. I got some general deer points. In Utah, you can buy up to 5 years advance hunting license. So I'm like, well, I know I'm in this for at least 2 or 3 more years. I'm going to go and lock in my price today. And when I did my application last night, I bought multiple years worth of license at the $120. Because if I do that after July 1st and say they double the price of the non-resident license, I just saved 50% on all my future license purchases. So something new this year, if you miss the deadline, which don't miss that April 24th, better look and make sure again, deadline. There is a point-only purchase period that they've opened up that when they do their antler list drawing in June 4th through the 18th this year, you could go in there and buy preference points. So if you miss it, they're going to give you a little mulligan. I can't list them all. This is probably the greatest number of new season types, new weapon types, and realignment of boundaries that I've ever seen in Utah. So download the regulations. You'll see that they have an indicator that says this is a new hunt this year. If you want to just rely on last year's hunt codes, that's fine. For people like me who might be interested in one of those new hunts, if you don't look them up and know about them, well, maybe I'll be the lucky one who does. I doubt it, but there's some in there that might appeal to you. This year, they're adding a 2.2% credit card transaction fee on the total amount of your purchase. I think all states are going to that just because it's a way to recover some of that fee. There's a new mule deer management plan being implemented. So you're going to see some changes in season types. You're going to see some new boundaries, some new units that were added. And that's on top of, remember last year we talked about it, how 2024 was the complete reshuffling of the deck for the elk plan in Utah. So now here we are, 2025, they're starting to implement this new mule deer management plan. So pay attention in Utah. If there's one good thing, they did not increase the fee for anything this year for non-residents. Everything in 2025, same exact price as it was in 2024. Your license is going to be 120 bucks. Your application fee is 15 bucks per species. For general buck deer, it's 418 bucks. Limited entry deer, 670 bucks. Limited entry elk, 1,050 bucks. Limited entry antelope, $371. Moose, mountain goat, bighorn sheep, whether desert or Rockies, are all 2,244 bucks. And bison is $2,420. So there you have it. I just rattled off all of the things you can apply for, plus the cost of each of them. Now, your upfront costs in Utah are going to be that $120 hunting license. And let's say you apply for 5 species. At $15 per application, that's another 75 bucks. So you got 120 plus 75, that's $195. They're going to add the 2.2% transaction fee on that. So you're going to end up right under $200 when that's all said and done. If you are so lucky as to draw, you're going to be looking at your credit card saying, oh, please, I hope I get a big charge on my credit card. They will charge that to successful applicants once the draw is completed. Utah's point system is a little bit easier to understand than some states, but a little more complicated than others. I'd say their complexity is sort of middle of the road. They have 2 systems. One is for general deer. They have a preference point system. He or she with the most points is going to get the tag. And they start at the highest point holder and they work their way down until they run out of tags, both for residents and non-residents. So that's a preference point system, and it's only for one hunt type, general buck deer. All the other things I rattled off, limited entry deer, limited entry elk, pronghorn, goat, moose, bison, and the sheep, they're all on what we call a hybrid bonus point system. Hybrid bonus point. What the heck does that mean, Randy? Well, thankfully, Utah takes 10% of all their limited entry tags and puts them over here in a pool. And that's what us non-residents are competing for. We're, unlike Montana, Arizona, Idaho, we're not competing against residents for some up to number. It's kind of like Nevada, where we are guaranteed this pool of tags, 10%. So how do they handle that? This is where their system gets complicated. And this is the same for residents and non-residents. And there are 2 parts to this draw. The first part of it, your bonus points really function as what I'll call preference points. And we call it the max point draw. So they take half of the tags and they put them in the first part of this draw, where your bonus points are treated as if they are preference points. And again, he or she with the most points is going to get the tag. And in most units, they don't have a lot of tags, so there aren't a lot of people in the running in the first part. But we all go into that first part called the max point draw. Hardly any of us draw, so all the rest of us then get thrown over into the bonus point round for the remainder of the tags. And that is done based on a true bonus point system, where bonus points are like raffle tickets. You have 10 bonus points, that's like having 10 raffle tickets. I have 2, that's like having 2 raffle tickets. Odds are you're going to win the raffle before I do. So that's really how they do it. Now, a little complexity to that, because Utah has so few tags. And if you're at a high point level, you need to be thinking about whether or not you're even in the running for some of these, what we call max point draw tags in the first part of the draw. So let's say there's only one tag. In my first example, there's only one tag for non-residents for that hunt code, and that's the case for a lot of hunts. That is going over here in the second part of the draw. They don't put a tag in that first part, in other words, the max point preference kind of style draw, until there's at least 2 tags. So the first one goes as the bonus point tag. Second one goes over here as a preference bonus max point tag. Tag number 3 also goes over here in the preference / max point draw. Tag number 4 goes over here in the bonus point draw. Tag number 5 goes back over in the max point draw, tag number 6, and it keeps doing that. So just know, if there is only one tag for any hunt code, that is not going over to the max point, folks. That is going in the bonus point draw. Every year you see people say, well, how did I not draw? I'm at max points. Well, there's only one tag. Now, here's the trick to that. They're going to finalize their numbers just before the deadline closes. And you can go in and modify your hunt choices. So if you have a ton of points, and last year there was only one tag that went in the bonus point draw, say they add a second tag, that second tag is going over here to the max point preference draw. So if you're one of those people with high points and you see that change, you might want to change your application over to one of those places where you could be in the running for that. Me, like most of us, none of us are in the running for those max point draws, so it doesn't really matter to us. So here's another neat thing you need to think about. If you're really, really lucky and you worry about drawing more than one tag in Utah, you are only allowed one limited entry tag per year. Now, general buck deer, I'm not talking about. I'm talking about these limited entry tags subject to the hybrid bonus point draw. They go through a sequence of limited entry deer, limited entry elk, pronghorn, the sheep, then moose, then mountain goat, then bison. And if you say you drew deer, limited entry deer, they throw you out and give you a bonus point for every other species after that. But let's say you didn't draw deer, you didn't draw elk, but you drew pronghorn. Okay? You're thrown out of every draw for moose, goat, sheep, and bison, and you're just going to get a point. So that's how they make sure you don't end up with 2 limited entry tags per year. As quick as you draw one, all of your other applications are considered a preference point application. Now, general buck deer, you can draw that on top of everything, and that's the last thing that they give away. Not that I have to worry about that. Not that you probably have to worry about that. This is one where, now that I've kind of said, hey, there's an opportunity, right? Hey, you're saying there's a chance? Now I'm going to get into the reality of it. The odds in Utah are so low. That's what slides it down my value scale. It is really, really challenging to draw a tag in Utah. If you look at Go Hunts Insider, and I'll throw a couple screenshots up here, you'll see how difficult it is. And I'm going to throw archery up there for deer and elk. And the reason I do that is I got really, really lucky 10 years ago. I think it was in 2014, I drew archery elk with 4 points. 2 years later, I drew archery deer with 6 points. And when you see these screenshots, you're going to be like, Randy, that was like unbelievable luck. Yep, it was. So I beat the odds. That means I'm probably never going to beat the odds again in Utah. But I throw those screenshots up there so that you can see just how much of a challenge it is to draw in Utah. And that's why if you're dealing with a limited budget, I think you got to look at other states of how you're going to allocate that limited budget before you look at Utah. Now, if you got the money and the budget, by all means, jump in there and look at Utah. So I'm going to take elk for an example, just to give you a feel for this. And I'm going to take the 2024 deck that they published out on their website. And there's 2 parts to that deck. The people who applied for a tag is one PDF file. The people who just bought points is another PDF file. So if we look at who actually applied for a tag last year for non-resident elk, 19,722 people applied for 324 tags. And of those 324 tags across all weapons types, 138 of those tags were issued in this, what we call the max point or preference draw. The other 186 were issued in this bonus point draw. So if you look at that and you say, okay, 19,722 applicants divided by 324 tags, That means 1 out of every 61 applicants drew a tag. And that doesn't count all these people over here on the side who are point buyers. Okay? These point buyers, they just say, buy me a point, buy me a point, buy me a point. And a lot of them use application services to buy, do my application, just buy me points. 18,520 non-residents bought points last year. That's on top of the 19,722 who applied. So you add both those together, and what's that? 38,242 people are in Utah's elk system. Well, this 18,520 people who are that pile of point buyers, over 6,000 of them have double-digit points. So what they do is they wait and they wait and they wait, and then they get way up here and they jump over into the draw. And it's like, where'd they come from? That's not what last year's numbers showed. Well, these folks over here that are just buying points, no, they don't even show up in the draw results, and that's how they jump in front of you by a point or two and create what we all call point creep. So, just know that if you add that 18,000 plus 19,000, the applicants plus the point buyers, and now you divide that by the 324 tags, there are 118 years worth of applicants, non-resident elk applicants in Utah's system. I'm not going to live 118 years. So that means I got to just get really, really lucky. I have to use some strategy to say, all right, what are the lower demand hunts? And am I willing to pay that much money that Utah charges me for a lower demand hunt? That's really what it comes down to. Or I'm just buying a raffle ticket and I'm praying to the gods that today is my lucky day. Now, I think I've used up all my luck in Utah. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how, what you're up against in Utah, trying to compete with all these other non-residents. And hopefully Utah will continue to put more elk on the mountain, more deer on the mountain, whatever it might be. And the more animals they have, the more tags they can issue. The more tags they can issue, the more 10% of the non-resident pile becomes a bigger number. So that's our goal. Put more animals on the mountain, especially in states like Utah where it's so much constraint to the supply-demand equation for non-residents. But it's even the same for residents. A lot of residents are only going to draw 1, maybe 2 elk tags in their lifetime. Now, how old do you have to be? Well, you must have passed hunter education and turned 12 years old by December 31st, 2025. I think I clear that hurdle. But a lot of you have youth applicants in your household, and you wonder that. Hunter education, why they let old guys like me have a pass? I made it by a little over a year. If you're born after December 31st, 1965, you have to have passed a hunter education course. Now, returning a tag in Utah, this is kind of an interesting thing. You can return a tag. You got to do so, I think it's within 30 days before the season opens if you want your points restored. You're not going to get a point for the year you turn the tag back in, but you will get your former points restored. If you return it within 30 days, you're not going to get your tag fee refunded. There's a whole bunch of other little quirky rules in there about getting tags refunded in Utah. But that is how I ended up drawing my archery elk tag in 2014. Somebody turned the tag back in and I was applicant, whatever, in line. Maybe a bunch of people turned it back, I don't know. But they called me and said, hey, you want this tag? I'm like, with 4 points, Utah elk, sign me up. So this return system creates another opportunity for you that maybe you were close to being the lucky number, but you weren't, and if someone returns that tag, maybe you will be. So what's the takeaway from all this? Well, if you have the budget, Utah is probably an appealing place to throw some money. But don't burn all of your budget in Utah at the opportunity to go and apply in a state where you have a realistic chance of drawing. Because you're going to be throwing money at Utah for a long, long time before you draw, unless you get really, really lucky. Again, remember the deadline of April 24th. If you really want to see the details on this, I think Utah is one of the states where goal hunt is, right now they introduced a thing this year called predictive odds. I'm going to pull it up here while we're watching. And what they're trying to do, yeah, they have predictive odds for Utah. They've run models for the last 5 years to say, okay, using AI and other stuff, if we did this model, how close would we be? And really what they're trying to do is give you a general idea that if everything stayed the same as last year, and the way applicants move around, tag numbers stayed the same, applicant pool stayed the same, here's where the threshold would be between in order to get a tag in the max point preference first round, and then what would be your odds at your point level in the second part of the draw. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, it's a pretty cool feature. I've been out there messing around with it, and obviously it can't take into account if they change the tag numbers way up or way down, but if you go out there and sign up for Insider, you're going to get that. You're going to get $50 of credit in their gear shop if you use promo code Randy. And if you use promo code Randy, we're going to give you an annual subscription to Fresh Tracks Plus and our elk hunting e-guide. But again, April 24th, if Utah fits your budget and is a good use of your money, by all means do it. But don't do it if it's going to cost you the opportunity to apply in other states where you have a much better chance of drawing a tag and going hunting. Thanks for watching. Good luck in the draw.